They betrayed Islam. They betrayed our tradition. May the devil shit on their graves. And even if they hoist me up on the gallows, God will see I'm not left without honor. Nothing is more important than our honor.
Hello and welcome to Omni News South Asian Edition. I'm Angie Seth. The Shafia multiple murder trial is soon coming to a close, with both the Crown and defense presenting their final arguments. Jury deliberations are also expected later this week. Mohammad Shafia, his wife Tooba Yahya, and their son Mohammad are all accused of first-degree murder. This and the deaths of Shafia's 3 daughters and his first wife from a polygamous marriage. Now, this is a trial that has many talking, a shocking case that made headlines over and over again. With more on today's developments, we go to Sudha Krishnan.
Angie, more than 10 weeks, more than 50 witnesses. Before the jury has its final say, both the Crown and the defense had one more chance to plead their case. And today, the defense tried to convince the jury that so far, all the facts do not add up to murder.
The lawyers for all 3 accused are expected to argue before the jury. The first to begin, Mohammad Shafia's lawyer.
Jury, if they're going to find somebody guilty, want to know how they were killed, and why they were killed, and when they were killed, and where they were killed.
He told the jury there are too many unanswered questions about how 4 bodies ended up at the bottom of a Kingston canal in June of 2009. The cause of death was drowning, but it's not clear when that happened. The lawyer said the timeline of a murder doesn't add up. Shafia's lawyer said it would take about 2 hours to drown the 4 victims, put their bodies in a car, push them into the locks, and then return to the motel where the family was staying while on vacation. But the time span for when they were last seen in Kingston and cell phone traces in Montreal is about 4 hours. Not enough time to travel and commit the crime, the lawyer says. The lawyer also said there has been no solid evidence the Shafia daughters and the first wife were all in imminent danger. Pictures shown in court suggest they're happy. This despite testimony from child protection, family members, school officials that the girls and Rana Amir were all in danger.
To sum it all up, the defense describes the Crown's case as speculation, and that speculation is not proof beyond reasonable doubt. Also, there is no physical evidence putting the accused at the scene of the alleged crime. And so far, the Crown has pointed to motive, that the deaths of 3 sisters and Mohammad Shafia's first wife was that of a so-called honor killing because the daughters had boyfriends and Shafia's first wife wanted to leave. Before our coverage continues, a look back at the highlights of this case.
On June 30th, 2009, 4 bodies were found in the Rideau Canal in Kingston. The victims were identified as 19-year-old Zainab, 17-year-old Sahar, 13-year-old Geeti, and 52-year-old Rana Amir Mohammad. Weeks later, Mohammad Shafia, his wife Tooba, and son Mohammad were all arrested in connection with the deaths. Then in August, all 3 accused appeared in a Kingston court via video link. A preliminary hearing was set for February. Court then acknowledges there is enough evidence for the case to go to trial. Almost a year and a half later, a jury of 12 men and women are chosen to hear the case. Then on October 20th, 2011, the trial begins with the Crown describing the deaths as so-called honor killings. The prosecution brings in wiretap evidence after the deaths, calls in family members, youth protection, police, and school officials. The Crown shows other physical evidence, a video of the submerged car and testimony from an expert in the practice of honor killings. Then in December, the defense begins its case, calling on one of the accused, Mohammad Shafia. He testified he loved his daughters, gave them freedom, and argued the girls were the ones cruel to him. Weeks later, Tooba Yahya takes the stand. She admits she lied to police to protect her son, feeling pressured, fearing police would torture him. Mohammad Shafia doesn't take the stand. The defense's final witness is a linguistic expert who testifies expletives heard on wiretap evidence of Shafia can be amplified when translated into English. Closing arguments began this week. The defense presented its final case. The Crown is to proceed after. The judge is then expected to deliver his instructions to the jury later this week.
Well, joining me now in our studios is Nadir Sachak. He's a criminal lawyer here in Toronto. Nadir, thanks a lot for coming in today. So I want to sort of pull apart this case a little bit. It's a complicated case. It's perhaps the first with the label of honor killing being attached to it. A lot has been presented. What are your impressions?
Well, it would appear that the Crown in this particular case has focused a great deal of time presenting evidence of motive, in that they're relying upon wiretaps to establish that the behavior of the girls was such that it violated the honor, the family's honor, and that the men or the males, including the mother, the wife in this particular case, had to do something about it, and that is by killing these individuals. So that's how the Crown has presented, I think, the case. The defense, on the other hand, is simply saying, look, yes, the Crown may have called evidence on the issue of motive, but physically it was virtually impossible to murder 4 individuals in such a short period of time in the manner in which the Crown has presented the evidence.
And of course, and the Crown, or sorry, the defense has been saying the Crown's case is all based on speculation. Speculation, speculation, speculation. There's no hard evidence.
That's right.
The jury is in a very interesting position. Not that any jury isn't, but in this case they really are. There's a lot of gaps in this case as well, a lot of hearsay as well from what we're seeing that's being presented. How is the jury going to look at this case? And of course the judge first needs to charge them, but we've heard that the judge has talked about, you know, accident versus murder.
Sure.
So where do you see the jury's point of view on this, or how they're going to be handling this?
Well, what will happen is that after the judge does his summation or is charged to the jury will have all the evidence, including the exhibits.
Okay.
And the first issue is the jury will have to decide whether or not this was an accidental death. If it was an accidental death, automatically everybody's not guilty.
Right.
If it was an unlawful act, then the jury has to determine whether this was manslaughter, second-degree murder, or first-degree murder. So yes, they have a great deal of evidence, and the defense is right. You cannot rely upon speculation. You cannot rely upon simply fancy theories. You have to look at the evidence, and the defense is saying, where is the evidence that these people in fact killed the 4 women? And how did they kill these women? There seems to be some, the defense is saying that evidence is lacking.
Now, of course, when you talked about sort of if there's a conviction, we're looking at all three. All 3 could be convicted differently, not necessarily all under the same. Mohammad, the son, did not take the stand, which we find to be very interesting. But if we come back to that conviction, if in the end the jury decides to convict in any which way, what kind of precedent is this going to put forward for a case like this?
Well, what it means is in the future, the Crown may again call expert evidence, like they did in this particular case, to establish what in fact is honor, how is honor violated, and thereafter what the ramifications are. So in this particular case, the family decides to kill these individuals because honor has been violated. So you have to look at each particular case separately. If the facts are there to suggest that you know, the girls or the women behaved in such a way and it offended the family's sense of honor, then of course they can rely upon what we've heard in this particular case.
Interesting. Well, I mean, of course, there's a lot the jury's going to be looking at. We're, of course, going to be following this very, very closely. Nadir, I certainly do appreciate you taking the time today to come in and talk to us.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.